Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Artur Rehi podcast. My name is Artur Rehi, and today we have here Preston Stewart. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Artur. Looking forward to this, man.
The first time we just talked was like 10 seconds ago, so it's all like very fresh for us. But we're warming up.
Yeah, we'll get there.
So I found you on YouTube because of your short content of war, of military, you know. That's how I found you. Can you tell me about how you started that? Or
Yeah, I have a sneaky feeling that our backgrounds are somewhat similar here, but been in the military for a little while. Joined back in 2009. I got commissioned in 2014 in the U.S. Army, and I've always been interested in military history. And when kind of COVID kicked off, I thought I would start making content about military history, just because it in a weird way, it forced me to learn more, because if you're going to talk about something, you better know what you're talking about, or at least have an idea. So it was a lot of fun. Made me read more books, maybe dig a couple layers deeper than I normally would. A lot of World War II stuff, some Vietnam, some World War I. And then when the war in Ukraine kicked off, I just, it sucked all of my energy. I've always wondered, you know, looking back at those big wars, what it was like for people not in combat, but experiencing the events playing out from home or from allied countries or adversarial countries or whatever. And man, that is just, it has taken a lot of time now. That is kind of what I focus on all day, every day now, whether or not it's content or just catching up.
can you elaborate? Like, you make this short video, right? It's 10, 15 seconds long, but what goes into making one of these shorts? I'm sure people have seen your shorts. So.
Yeah, it's cool. It's such a I'm not very good at video editing, like, at all. So those short videos are really cool because there's very little editing required, and you can do it on a phone, whether it's YouTube or TikTok or Instagram. You can always edit it within the app pretty easily. And it's kind of been a fun challenge because you have to learn like what you can cover in under a minute.
Oh yeah.
And there's
play with the algorithm.
Yeah, man. And there's not everything. And it's hard sometimes because if you want to talk about the Estonian military, like, that's not a 60-second clip, right? You know how much you have to leave out to get to that? So it's kind of fun to narrow it down and like just hit a couple key points. But in turn, then there's kind of like an unlimited amount of content that you can come up with when they're all just 10, 15, 40-second bits.
I mean, I saw your shorts, and I honestly, I'm going to be honest here. I saw your shorts. I now have a short and podcast channel like this one, and I do military shorts, and I started doing them like based on you.
Awesome.
I saw yours. I saw the view count, and I'm like, hey, I could do this. Yeah. Let's try it. And I'm doing them. It's a lot of fun, but I see that you are like clear verbally, and you have made perhaps some research. Mine are just like, oh, mine go boom, you know, and then I react to it. That's what I do.
But I think it all works. I don't think there's a right or wrong. Yeah. There's whatever, some billion number of people look at those every day. It's crazy.
It's fun to do. I mean, because my main channel, I research, I put hours into editing and stuff like that. So this shorts channel is like, I can just scroll, and if I like it, I can on the camera. Boom. That's for me at least shorts, but I know yours are a bit more elaborate. Yeah.
Sometimes not though. I mean, there's I've
seen some funny ones also.
Yeah, it is fun. To your point, you don't have to put as much. If you're going to make a 20-minute video about a type of mine, you got to do a lot of research for that. That's a lot of talking, a lot of details. But if you're going to make an 8-second video, this is what that type of mine is. You're not spending 7 days going down rabbit holes to figure stuff out, because you've just got to hit the high level. So you're still able to kind of learn as you go. I don't know. To me, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is. It's so much fun of making. It's honestly, like, I started podcasting shorts very recently. It's one of like, it's the most fun I've had on YouTube.
Really?
Like, yeah, making the main channel videos, it's okay. It brings in what I need to make this, but this is like talking to colleagues and making these shorts, going on camera. It's the fun part.
You know, it's been
because the tedious research. It's so much. I don't. Yeah.
The interesting thing for shorts for me is you're just kind of putting it out there, right? So you're not putting in necessarily the time that you would for a long form video. So sometimes they're half-baked thoughts. Like, well, here's an idea and I'll put it out there. Because a lot of times after a week, nobody will ever see it again. Right? They kind of die off. But
it's weird. I don't understand the algorithm. I've been only doing shorts for 1.5 months and I'm like, what's going on with them? It's dead and suddenly it's alive. Can you teach me please here?
My most viewed shorts this week are from 2021. So I have
no way.
And I don't want those to be, they're fine. There's nothing wrong with them, but there's a lot of military history stuff that I used to do almost exclusively. So people that are following me now, they're getting something pop up in their feed about, the evacuation at Dunkirk. And they're going, what is this, man? Why are you all of a sudden talking about World War II? Because the date,
it's Ukrainian war. You're talking about.
The date isn't super clear on the short, right? So I have no idea.
It is so strange what the algorithm is doing with them. Like, you gotta be like in YouTube videos. My older videos, they don't pop up. If you put them up 1 week, they get the views. They're dead.
Right.
That's it. Like, very rarely they come up. But in shorts, like you make a video 2 years ago. If you don't like that video, it's gonna come back and haunt you because it's gonna blow up probably.
It's true. I like it. I think there's, there's a lot of restrictions. Now it's different because shorts aren't really monetized like long form. But I've noticed you don't get the warnings on shorts that you do on longs. So I'm sure you've put content up before where YouTube's like, there's too much combat or shooting or whatever, and they don't like it. I haven't seen that in shorts yet, for better or for worse.
Haven't you gotten a short removed Damn, you're on the good side of YouTube.
Have you had shorts removed?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I'm a bad boy on that. I have to be more careful. Yeah.
I've had them removed on TikTok all the time.
You do?
All the time, man. Yeah. TikTok's very strict.
So you have account warnings on TikTok?
Oh, yeah.
And that doesn't affect your views?
I don't know. Probably does. I think they still get plenty of views, but I just had one the other day where it didn't even publish. Before it even published, they said no go. There's a guy trying to shoot an AK-47 over his head, and it got away from him, and he went like that, and somehow missed all of his buddies.
That's the Arabic video of them. I've seen that one. It's so much fun.
They said, nope, I don't know maybe they thought someone died or something. But
if you're publishing stuff like that, you're also living on the edge.
I thought it was worth a shot.
Well, yeah, I had 2 videos removed from TikTok, and that's the account warning that your account might be deleted. So I'm demoralized. I don't want to do that anymore.
They're bad about it. It's frustrating. I've had some removed where there's a guy shooting an AK-47 at his friends. Like, you're right. That's on the edge. And the minute I hit publish, I was like, well, let's see what happens here. But there's been a couple others where there's no reason at all. Hard to understand what would have violated, and TikTok's bad.
So in TikTok, you kind of can't be careful because you never know what. Yeah.
There's certain areas like I learned early on, you can't put any pictures of Hitler. So I was doing a lot of World War II stuff. And there were times where I'm trying to talk about this assassination attempt on Hitler. You couldn't show him. The AI picked up Hitler. Swastikas, of course, are no-go. But when you're talking about World War II, sometimes you got to do a lot of work to make sure there's never a swastika in the German picture, right? And I think this has changed, but in that same theme, I couldn't say Nazi, which really restricted how you talk about,
How did you find out these details?
I don't know. Because I had those videos taken down over time.
Okay. Because they're very specific and they don't tell you this stuff. No. So you have to.
But you're looking at it and you're like, I have no idea. There was a picture of Hitler. Maybe that was it. And then the next time you don't put a picture, you just say Nazi, and then they take it down. It's like, maybe it's that word.
Damn it. You got to swim around with the algorithm and find the little details. Yeah. Oh, it's so cool. I really like, I'm so frustrated about this TikTok stuff. I really want to do it. I like the short content, but 2 videos deleted. I get this account warning that it might be deleted. I'm like, I can't. But you say you have this all the time, so I guess I'll just keep uploading.
I don't know how they view accounts, man. I know people who 1 or 2 videos get taken down and the account gets shut down. So I don't know.
You have so many followers there. If it would be shut down for you, it would be pretty sad, right?
Yeah, it wouldn't be good. TikTok is fun. I've had a lot more fun on YouTube. So
Really?
I like in the comments that you can actually write what you're thinking. The restriction, you can't, I like that somebody can link in YouTube. Hey, have you seen this video? Did you know this news came out? You can't put links in TikTok comments. They're restricted on length. They're hard to find, the old videos. Like if I know I made a video a year ago, I can't find it on TikTok. Like it's on my page and I can't find it. It's that hard to search for content. But on YouTube, you could find a video. You could find the very first video you ever made by searching for it today, right?
Yeah, just search based on upload date, and it's the first one you find.
That's not really on TikTok. You got to like do all the. You just scroll, like
through the thousands of.
Yeah.
All right. Crazy stuff. I remember seeing one of your. I really liked it, like when they use the stick to diffuse a mine.
Oh my God.
Boom. It's diffused. It worked. I mean, the splinters. What the hell?
Is that not? I'm sure you're the same way. You're seeing some of these things these guys are doing, and like, I've mixed emotions because, like, listen, you're there. You're the one making that decision. I'm here, comfortable in the United States, but God, don't do that. I got one yesterday where a guy kicked one of those little mines just to see what would happen.
No, if I would be there, I would not touch the mine with the stick. Even I would, like the guy who shot an S-300 behind the tree, with a machine gun. And
Was that
exploded.
real? I know what you're talking about.
I think that was real. I mean, yeah, I think so.
I have nothing to say it was fake. It looks it looks crazy.
It's like, well, if they are Russians do stuff like that. It's like, da pochwe, let's do it, and kaboom. They don't think about that. But I'm thinking maybe I'm too in control, like, of the impulses. Like, I don't want to die, so I'm not going to touch the mine. I'm not going to shoot an S-300. I'm not going to, like, play around with a stick near an explosive. So I feel like I'm an old-fashioned or something. I don't know. These guys are so free with explosives.
I don't know. I mean, I guess you do get a little numb to it. You get a little more comfortable. I'm thinking about EOD guys when they've been disabling mines and IEDs. They get up there. I remember in Afghanistan, they would get up there with just a little Gerber tool at some point and start digging at it. And, we're standing like 100 yards away. Like, I don't want to get anywhere near that thing. And they're just hacking at it with a knife because they know they've done so many of them. I guess maybe you get to that point, but I still don't think I'd be kicking a mine to see what happened.
But I mean, if you live like in Afghanistan, also you're an EOD guy, right? You kick at it with a knife. You're so used to it. But like you live every day knowing that I mean, every soldier knows they might die, but the EOD guy is like next level. You're touching explosives daily.
That's true. They've got to be numb to it, right?
Yeah. Imagine what that would do, like, with your psyche, to be numb to the fear of death all the time. I don't know.
I think that's going to be an issue coming out of this war, right? Imagine the number of people, civilians too, but the soldiers on the front lines living through those barrages and those mines, they're going to be, on both sides. On both sides, you could be absolutely devastated. There's going to be a lot of PTS, a lot of severe PTS, I think.
Oh, yeah, and like right now in Estonia, we're, all with the mental health, psychiatry and all of that is coming to Estonia, the new psychiatry things. And they say that the wounds we treat mentally right now are from the 40s, passed on for generations because they couldn't be treated in the Soviet times because you had to survive. And now it's the free era. These wounds come out 3 generations later. So the children of these soldiers and maybe their children, they will be dealing with this stuff because they will be raised up by parents who are screwed from the head.
Yeah, unfortunately, I agree.
Yeah. I don't know if they even deal with that stuff. Like, I know they patch the soldiers up, but I don't know about mental stuff. Do they fix you up?
I mean, we're bad at it in the United States. We're trying, but it's one of those things that we just don't have a good grasp on. I don't think anybody has a good grasp, a good understanding of how to best treat it. So when I say we're bad at it, I mean we don't have the answer, and I think we're getting better at it, but there's no perfect solution out there. So if Russia and Ukraine are at level with the United States in those regards, then they're going to have a lot of problems.
Well, I already know that in Russia, mental health as a condition, as an illness, it's almost like it doesn't exist. Like you're mentally ill, drink vodka. They don't really believe on state level to psychiatry or
Really?
psychology. They don't. Yeah, their soldiers. The psychological state of their soldiers is not a priority. It's not even on the list. It doesn't really matter. Yeah. So in Ukraine, I think it's different, but in Russia, it's yeah.
Do you think that changes in Russia during wartime? Like, are they going to view their combat soldiers differently than peacetime soldiers?
I think, yeah, because in peacetime, Russian soldiers were worth more. Now they're just meat. Like before the war, they were elite soldiers. Everybody thought all over the world that Russia was the second army, and Russians thought this. Now Russian generals see they have seen the first wave die. Now they have waves upon waves. It's just coming and going meat for them. So they weigh their soldiers in kilograms now.
So you think it's going down?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So I was
the
thinking,
human life.
again, in the United States, for instance, people look past our military a lot, and then the minute we're in a conflict, like the beginning of Iraq, Afghanistan for a little while, they really focus on trying to take care of veterans, and there's a lot more attention. That's why I was asking. I wonder if the care and the interest in Russia would increase now that they're in an open war. But I can see that. I can see it going down. Disappointment. Almost.
Well, you know, one side is that officially they give you medals and they make these huge ceremonies. That will increase,
Sure.
as in USA. But how many veterans have thrown away their Purple Hearts? They mean nothing to them. The real care, the mental care, the money they give. Russia doesn't pay these soldiers later. They don't pay their wives. So, and if they go home and they're really like mentally sick and they become alcoholics, then the state doesn't care. So. But they make these huge ceremonies where they
parades.
make it look like they care. Yeah,
Yeah, sad.
yeah. Like if a soldier dies, the state will pay for a huge funeral, but that's it, because that's the only way the state can get the camera attention that they care. But actually going to the family and giving them money, or actually taking care of mental health of veterans, they don't really do that, because that's hard to show to the cameras, I guess.
Did you ever meet or work alongside any Russian soldiers?
Not soldiers from Russia. Just Estonian conscripts are like 30% Russian, like full Russian, who live in Estonia. So, but well, they share a little bit of mentality, and I could imagine what the Russian soldiers are like based on that.
I took Russian in college, and I remember none of it. But I think we had an exchange officer, Russian officer, but I didn't. A couple interactions at most, but we did. I mean, all countries around the world have had interactions with Russian soldiers and military since the fall of the Soviet Union, right? It's not North Korea, so there's been interactions there, and I wish now that I had more, so I could better understand kind of what's happening there.
Well, the weird part also is that these, if you would have the interactions, these soldiers are dead, and this mentality is dead. It has changed so much in the last 8 months. The idea of Russian soldiers being used as cannon fodder, like Russia was supposed to be this high-tech army, like the Western armies. They sold themselves to the Western powers like that. We are powerful, our missiles and everything, our doctrines. But now we see they're actually just using World War II, World War I era doctrines, and it has crumbled down. Like if you would have talked to that officer, maybe you would have gotten the image that they are really trained, really well educated. It's a mentality that cares about the soldiers. But the truth now is so much different. So that image would have been crumbled anyway.
Why? This is something I struggle with. I can't understand why. Like,
Putin has really changed his grip on the country in the last 8 months.
really, I feel like I haven't gotten a good view of that. Okay.
Yeah, he has like, I don't want to use the term, but he has like a gay person. He's like come out with what he really wants to do with the country. It's like, oh, this war is going on anyway. Everybody else hates me anyway. I don't have to pretend anymore. And he's like iron fisting like Stalin. Yeah, very harsh laws he has passed. We don't know about them in the West, but like if you follow Russian laws, then like it's going fully in the 1980s for the Soviet Union, 1970s.
Like what? Could you just...
Well, for the fact that if you talk negatively about the war, you will be put to jail for 10 years, full Soviet Union. political commissars were in the Soviet, where Russia has Rosgvardia, which is Putin's personally made military unit that is like NKVD. They are responsible for watching over the army and looking if any generals want to defect, or it's Putin's personal puppet, basically. And he made it like 3 years ago, I think. So he's been slowly driving the Russian people into the Soviet era again, and very much so when the war started.
It's I still struggle with this, and maybe it's because I don't know if it was the same for you when you're doing all your training, but like Russia was a military might, and for what it's worth, I think they still are. They have resources that could make a war with NATO very, very costly. It would not be it looks more and more like NATO would come out on the winning side there. I think we're more confident in that today than we were 9 months ago, but it would cost a lot of lives. But it's like a confusing, how could we have gotten so many things so wrong? How could this have been so well disguised? It makes you wonder about some of the other militaries around the world. North Korea is a great example. We'd have no idea what's going on there compared to what we knew about Russia.
I mean, North Korea is selling their military like Russia did, best military, and we have so many men. And if you look at their military, men are starving. They're skeletons. I mean, you just look at them; they're skinny, and like North and South Korean military men meet in every photo against South Koreans, like bulked up, big helmets.
I think they do that on purpose, don't they? They intentionally send their bigger people. Yeah.
And North Korea intentionally sends their smallest dudes.
No. I don't think North Korea does intentionally, but South Korea is like, make sure we send some big dudes because we know it's going to be over there.
Yeah, but North Koreans, they have these old like 40s hats, weird, and like their equipment is from the 40s. Their military is starving, actually. They have starvation in the military. I mean, and Russian military also, because Russia has poured billions, even over 100 billion, I think, in the last 20 years to put out the image in the West. They're the powerful military. They have bought football clubs, commercials, sold gas, and had their agendas in the EU parliaments, and poured like a lot of money to make it look like they're better than they are. And now it all came crumbling down. And this is like, how are they so bad? Because everybody, my generation, has grown up with the knowledge that Russia is so big and powerful. So for my generation, it's like, what?
But it's not even a recent thing, and I think that's where we struggle. Is Russia was a powerhouse. Right. I mean, I was talking about military history earlier, like that's the thing. Everybody likes to talk about how Russia's, the Soviet Union is overlooked because they did it all. They took on Nazi Germany. And they did. They were a beast, man. And that wasn't that long ago. They did a lot of work in World War I. They had some domestic issues that really kind of thwarted what they were able to do in that conflict. But what we're seeing in Ukraine is not really the historic Russia. It's kind of a new Russia. And I think that's partially where it's confusing.
I don't know, because in World War One, I think when the Germany invaded the Soviet Union, 1940, I think, 1941. 40. Well, anyway, about 2 months before, Stalin did one of his biggest purges. He killed off 50% of the officer corps of the Soviet Union 2 months before the Germany invaded. And then Germany invaded, and they took like 1 million prisoners within first 1 month.
They got their teeth
because there were no. Yeah, and that was because of Stalin. And where does the corruption in Russia come from? From Putin. He has surrounded himself with thieves. Like Prigozhin is 13 years in prison. He's a thief. And the leader of Wagner Group, and Prime Minister, all of them, if they have not served time, they have not got caught yet. They're all thieves, and like it's a thieving society. I think it's the same as in the 40s.
Well, so with that, in World War II, they were able to turn it around, right? They just kept taking punches until eventually they said no more, roughly around Stalingrad, and turned the fight around. It's always hard to see that in the midst of it, but I don't know. It's hard to see that happening.
Honestly, it is. I feel like the Second World War, Soviets won because Germans made mistakes. I don't feel like Soviets won because they just kept feeding their men into meat grinder. Because that didn't work in World War I. It didn't work in World War II until Germans started to make very stupid mistakes.
That's fair.
on the battlefield, you cannot argue Germans were better in every way. They were like NATO versus Russia now. Germans were high-tech NATO forces with good doctrines, and Russians were like Russia now, sending men to die. But people are so different opinionated about this, so yeah.
No, it's interesting. I don't know. It'll be interesting. I'm fascinated. I said at the beginning, I'm fascinated with when we get 10, 15, 20, 50 years down the road, looking back and what were the analysis at the time? What were people thinking at the time versus how it actually plays out? I just read John Mearsheimer is an American political scientist. You know the name?
No.
He got in some trouble because he wrote a story called "Why Ukraine is the West's Fault," and he blamed the entire war.
I've heard that title somewhere.
It got a lot of attention right at the start of the war. So he blamed this entire war essentially on NATO, saying NATO shouldn't have been pushing.
Ooh.
Because of that, Russia had to respond. So you can see how some people really got upset with that point of view. But anyways, he's got
Does he have some good points?
Some, I think, yeah. I mean, NATO's expanded. You can't argue that.
Yeah.
It has.
No.
And if you're Russia, you probably don't want to see NATO expand. So I don't know how you argue against that, but he gets into Putin's desire to conquer territory. He doesn't think that Putin has any interest in taking territory. And
Whoa,
I
already have so many issues.
Well, that's where I think it's hard to. I think where he kind of loses track is they just annexed 4 territory. They just did.
They annexed. Yeah, I mean they would have taken Georgia if they couldn't have put the puppet government there. I mean, you could basically they took Chechnya, they took Georgia, they almost they took Transnistria from Moldova, they took Donbass. I mean, they just take territory.
Why do you think
like that's what they do?
Why do you think Russia didn't do what they did in Donbass and in Crimea just more? Like that was successful. What they did in Crimea was successful. They went in there with these little green men and the whole world knew they were Russians, but we somehow treated it like they weren't. And by 2020, everyone kind of viewed Crimea as Russian. That was successful on their part. What do you think changed to where they were like, nah, let's send in tanks?
I think he got greedy. I think so. I mean, he's old also. He knows he's dying. For Putin, as much as I know him by looking at what he does, it's very important to him. His idol is Peter the First, the great expansioner, the great, he almost Europeanized Russia, the great dude in Russia, the great Tsar. He wants to be like him, and he's old. He needs to make the moves now, and I think he got greedy with it. Yeah, because I think you're right. If he would have gone with it slowly and step by, but he escalated very fast. Small grabs of land and then huge invasion, right? So
I mean, if in the United States we were having debates left and right, should we be sending Ukraine anything? And it was so hard to explain to the general public, of which I'm a part. Like, wait, what's going on? So those are Russians? No, they're separatists. But they have Russian equipment, and there's also some Russian troops there. So it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
So is it a civil war? Is it Russia invading? That gray area, let them do a lot.
Yeah, I think that's what Russia wanted, the West to be split up because they don't have clear answers about this. But I think Russia was really successful up until 2022. They were winning all over the place. The entire world believed they were the second army in the world, and they gave that card away by showing how weak they are, by invading Ukraine and getting their asses kicked.
It scares me a little bit. The thing that scares me in this conflict is you generally don't see a major country like Russia fall without a lot of bloodshed. Maybe that bloodshed is limited to what we're seeing in Ukraine right now, which in the grand scheme would be not a lot for a major power to fall. But that's kind of my concern is, you're right, they looked great, now they're not. What the hell happens?
I think U.S.A. is playing a very smart game. I'm a big fan of U.S.A.'s game. I mean, a lot of people don't like that, but U.S.A. is very careful not to escalate the conflict too much. But they're giving as much as they can with not escalate. Like, if you give too much to Ukraine, Russia will feel, oh, we cannot win, nuke the place. If you give too little, Ukraine will lose. But you give just enough for Ukraine to bleed Russia out slowly, Russians will feel like they want to win, they can win, but actually they're losing, and Ukrainians don't lose. Russia doesn't, you cannot let Russia know that they're losing, otherwise they will do stupid stuff, and they cannot win. So you just gotta slowly bleed them empty, and I think this is what U.S.A. is doing, giving just enough for like slow death of Russia.
I don't think
That's what I think.
I don't think that's crazy, but I feel like you could really make some people angry with that point of view.
Oh yeah,
because that is,
I think a lot.
Yeah, that's essentially using Ukrainians as a tool, right? But
it is definitely.
the world is a cold
NATO
place,
is.
yeah.
If I say, I believe it is like that. NATO is using Ukraine to put Russia out of the world stage. I mean, I would be stupid not to see this. And I am all for Ukraine, and I see they are fighting for us. If it wouldn't be for Ukraine, Russia would take the Baltics. So I'm for Ukraine. I cannot change that NATO is using Ukraine, so I'm just going with what I have, supporting Ukraine. But I know what's going. Like, this is what I think I know, that they're using Ukraine now.
Do you have many contacts or family or friends that are tied in with what's happening in Russia, just given your proximity?
Well, historians have.
What I'm getting at is it's very challenging for us to get an understanding of what people are feeling in Russia.
Well, there's a lot of fear. It's like back in the Soviet times. It's fear all over the place because people are actually put in jail left and right. People are beaten by the police. The police can do what they want. It's a police state now, and they can do what they want with you if you say war is bad. So everybody is afraid. The people who could, they left already. About 1 million people left from the mobilization. Yeah, and there's so much fear in Russia right now, and so much alcoholism, because in Russian culture, if hardships hit you, the first thing you go to is vodka. It's not a meme, it's reality, actually. So they drink to cope, and they're afraid. Yeah. But look how you said America is split on if they should give money or like equipment to Ukraine, right?
I'd say so. I was talking with a friend yesterday. Did my camera just get really blurry?
Oh yeah, it did. I noticed that.
Okay,
Yeah.
there we go.
Oh no, it's fine.
It seems like we have a lot of very extreme views. We've got viewpoints that want nothing to do with Ukraine. We have issues at home, and they see the size of some of these packages going overseas. And I don't think we've done a good job in the United States of explaining, when that says $440 million, that it's not a blank check that otherwise could have built a new road. It's the value of HIMARS, the value of whatever it might be. But anyways, you've got one camp on one side that tends to say, we've got problems here, focus here in the United States. I don't understand what the problem is with Russia. And then you've got, because it's not as near of a threat to us here in the United States as it is to you guys in the Baltics. It's not as real of an immediate threat. On the other end, you've got the send it all, we're not doing enough. I think there's a sizable amount of the population that would put U.S. troops on the ground if they could.
Really?
Which I think is a little too far. It feels like we've got very vocal extremes. And what seems to be happening is the politicians are meeting right in the middle, and whether intentional or not. And to your point, sending over equipment without necessarily escalating. But it's split. I'd say for sure it's split.
So what would you say? Do you see Americans stopping the money, stopping the equipment flow?
It has to have more of an impact on our day-to-day lives. So, gas prices went up here. They're kind of back down.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. I don't want to pay more money for gas.
Nobody, yeah.
I think I would put this in the context of the war in Afghanistan, the war in Syria, the war in Iraq. Most people don't care about it unless it directly impacts them. I think if you grab a random citizen on the street and ask them to name 2 cities in Ukraine, they probably couldn't. It's just not a top 10 priority for the vast majority of our citizens. So for that to change, for them to get more vocal about not doing something to help Ukraine. I think something has to happen here, either a continued spike in inflation, maybe gas prices going up, unemployment, something. Life has to get bad for Americans for them to want to shut that off, I think.
But there's kind of a lot to go on that part, right? America is a stable system, kind of like compared to some other countries. Estonia is fully dependent on foreign energy. America has most of their oil and gas, right, and coal.
I'm not sure. Yeah, getting in over my head there. The challenge I see in the next 6 to 12 months is that's the population talking, but the population doesn't make the decisions. The politicians do, and you never know what gets held up for political reasons.
When are the presidential elections?
They start in 2 years.
Oh, in 2 years. So Biden is going to be 2 years more.
Yeah, we've got the same president for at least 2 more years. But Congress just changed. We just had elections in our Congress.
Did that change anything in the support towards Ukraine?
A little bit. The Republicans, which tend to be more conservative, right-leaning, won the majority in the House of Representatives, and the Democrats maintained control or won control in the Senate. So it's still relatively split. There were other issues that were more of a priority, and I just don't think I don't think you're going to see a change in any packages to Ukraine in the near future.
The thing is, if American packages don't change, Ukraine is going to win. It's easy as that. U.S.A. is giving more than the entire rest of the world combined, like by default. So if U.S.A. gives for the next 2 years, Biden is president, Ukraine will win this conflict by that time.
2 years, you think that would?
But
yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, Russia can't sustain this, can they?
No. They already need to do another wave of mobilization by New Year. I think they need to, because these troops right now, as soon as they mobilize, 2 weeks later, like before they mobilized, they had 250, maybe 300 KIAs per day. As soon as these troops arrive to the front, 600 to 700 KIAs per day, and no ground gain for it. So these troops are just going there to die, but there's nothing to show for it. They will run out of these troops, and they will not change anything. So they would just need to bring. It looks like a pyramid scheme. You need new troops. You need new investments, whatever. Yeah, it always needs to come. If the manpower runs out, Russia is done.
I think Russia's maybe not as big as a lot of people think either. Was it 140 million people, something like that? It's big, but it's not China.
No, yeah, and they have an aging population, so a lot of that population is 50 plus, a lot.
Do you have a feeling for what the pro-war sentiment is in Russia? Like when somebody is in favor of the war, not out of fear of Putin, but we are doing the right thing. What is that argument?
I think most of the people are far-right nationalists in Russia or pensioners, because Putin has been really focusing towards pensioners to get their votes, because they're a very easy group to manipulate through screens, because they're all home in Russia and they watch their screens, So most are ultra-nationalists and pensioners, and the ones who are not, they left the country. So in my opinion, they are brainwashed, and yeah, that's it, they're brainwashed. Because 20 years they have been fed these propaganda shows in the TV, and it has an effect if you grow up with it. But that's my opinion. Russians would say I am brainwashed, you know. So
do you think it's the idea of take what's ours? We this part of Ukraine belongs to us. That kind of thought.
Yeah, the idea of big, powerful Russia has been embedded to them from the kindergarten. Honestly, Russia, big, powerful, we can do what we want. This bravado image of a country. It's not like Western European countries who are very calmed down. They had their wars, they're really settled. Russia is like a teenager, they're very provocative, I do what I want, I kick the doors in and stuff like that. So, and these people in Russia are brought up with that mentality. That's Putin's work. He knows what he's doing with these people. He's playing on that card.
That's something that's been interesting to me is Putin's not an idiot. He's not stupid. everybody makes bad decisions and wrong decisions, but I feel like he didn't get to where he is and have this level of control over the country in so many different ways by being stupid. And
Yeah.
but now it does seem like poor decision after poor decision, and it's hard to figure out. I mean, I guess if you get backed into a corner, you kind of double down in a way. But I know the saying 4D chess, right? People always say he's playing 4D chess and he's a couple moves ahead of us and we're not on the same level as him. And historically, like over the last 10 years, there were sometimes little pieces of that, where it was smart maneuvering on the political or the geopolitical stage. But like that, it just seems like bad move after bad move right now.
He has made really good moves. He got to the presidential, like the way he got to be a president was like a cunning fox cleverness. What he did with the Chechen war, he was like the cleverest person in Russia. But honestly, he made the first huge mistake. He made a mistake by thinking that Ukraine was going to fall in 3 days. I mean, Putin is not stupid. He's not going to invade a country giving them only 3-day rations if he thinks it's going to take longer. He honestly believed Ukraine is going to fall in 3 days. A mistake, a huge mistake. How did he make that, right? After that, the next mistake by thinking that the Western powers wouldn't unite behind Ukraine. Another huge mistake. They did unite. Then I made a mistake. If I cut the gas of the Western powers, it will hurt me, but it will hurt the West so much they will stop the aid. He cut the gas, didn't get money from EU anymore, but the West is still supporting Ukraine. Another huge mistake. He keeps making them. Something happened with him. I guess he got old or something. I don't know.
Yeah. There is an interesting dynamic that I think is fun to argue here in the United States. So there's been the debate that Russia put their hand on the scale in the United States elections, right? A couple times throughout history that Russia was so sneaky and cunning and that they altered the outcome of these elections. And that is the same Russia now that is fielding World War II equipment to their, it's like, it's these two extremes, right? It depends on what argument you're trying to make. Either Russia is the most advanced, sneaky, malicious country out there, or they're just, falling on their faces.
People are giving Russia much more credit than they actually deserve. And the credit Russia deserves, you can really see on the battlefield. That's the credit they deserve, because they're proving themselves to be very incapable of fighting. And the credit people give to them comes from years behind, like years of Russian propaganda in the West. That's where it comes from. I thought Russia is this huge superpower. What's going on? That's because these people were brainwashed in the West also to believe that Russia is like that. Russian army has always been like even in the Soviet times, like Soviet army versus the Western army. There is a huge quality difference in that. Always was, and in the mentality also.
Do you have in Estonia anybody that's like any pundits that are pro-Russia, but they don't say it? Like on YouTube, there's a bunch of people, a lot in the United States, where like they are not, you gotta like walk this line where like they're not working for the Kremlin, but like for whatever reason, they're very in line with everything. Do you have any of that in Estonia, or are you guys so hard against Russia that it's just not a thing?
We have it.
Okay.
Yeah. We have Estonians we have this party in Estonia, political party called the Estonian Conservative National Party. And they play the Estonian game. We're all Estonia, but the talking points and everything they speak and all of their options that they want to do with the country, they're only good for Putin.
Gotcha.
So like, we're all Estonia, but we do these decisions and they're only good. Like, let's take Estonia out of the European Union. Who wins from that? Only Putin, not Estonians. And they say like, this is the Estonia, let's be nationalists and let's like take Estonia out of the EU, not to be globalists. But I think they're on the Kremlin's payroll and they have a huge following, unfortunately, on like Estonian people. So these people don't say they're pro-Russia, they're pro-Estonia, but in my eyes, they're playing Putin's game.
Yeah, there's a handful of accounts I'll follow that are English-speaking individuals, not necessarily networks, but they, like, I go to their accounts to learn what Russia's thought process is, if that makes sense. Like that's how I know where they're coming from. But I don't think they're like in the employ of Russia by any degree. I think they just enjoy maybe taking the the opposite stance. I don't know. It's interesting, especially when it's Americans in America.
That is weird, yeah, to think. So, I guess some people get a kick out of that to like oppose the majority or to be the underdog, or I don't know.
A lot of
Russia.
Well, a lot of it seems to me like you mentioned that people are still hung up, still using old Russian propaganda as to how effective they actually are, and that's what made me think of it. Is a lot of them are still, Putin's getting ready. Here comes the hammer. They're going to drop it. Get ready, Ukraine. Be on the lookout. And you're
There's
like,
no hammer.
What are you talking about? Like,
yeah,
what are they waiting for?
The best. I just talked to Operator Starsky, the Ukrainian. The best Russian divisions, the best ever trained. I mean, they tried to take Ukraine with 3 days, so it's natural they sent the best divisions as to take Ukraine, to take Kiev. The most prize is Kiev. They sent their descent forces. I don't know how in English. Descentniks. Well, the troops were like paratrooper special forces. They sent hundreds of these, almost all of them, to Kiev. They were shot down. They didn't even land. Some of them landed. Some of them were shot to pieces in the air, and like, entire units, thousands of these Descentniks. The elite forces were destroyed within the first week of this war. That's the hammer. They lost it.
That's the thing. But you hear that talking point. Hear that talking point, right? Like, get ready. Here it comes.
I hear it. I see it. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Have you like, there are bodies of these design forces. You cannot, like, there are facts about this.
And what are you waiting for? Like, it takes, this, it takes time to regroup forces, to rearm, re-equip, and reorganize, and find a new axis of attack, and plan the operation out. I got it. But it's been 9 months. So, like, if you're holding back for something, tens of thousands of people have died while you're waiting to actually attack.
They're not holding back. They're barely holding on. I mean, they're losing Kharkiv front. They lost Izium. Now they lost Kherson. They're losing huge amounts of land. I don't know how these people can see that Russia is holding back, or going away from Kherson is a genius move to lure Ukrainians into a trap. There was no trap. We all thought it was a trap. I thought Kherson is a trap. It wasn't a trap. The Russians were just unable to hold on to the city. I gave Russia too much credit on that.
I did. At the start of the war, I 100%, like, this is crazy. At like week 2, it's like, this is crazy. I can't believe Ukraine is still a country.
Yeah,
they have jets in the air. At week 3, like, what's going on here?
And now Ukrainian Air Force is dominating the skies, honestly. Insane.
There's a good podcast I just started listening to today talking about the air war, just how much that's changed and the mistakes. A lot of mistakes that Russia made, but as we're bashing Russia, in their defense, Ukraine did some work in terms of air defenses and making Russia shift tactics and moving their resources around the battlefield to where the strikes weren't effective. But yeah.
I mean, Ukraine was able to shoot down a lot of Russian aviation before they had any of the Western anti-air capabilities. And then they got the Western anti-air capabilities, and now Russians don't want to fly over Ukraine at all, like, not with anything. As soon as a helicopter flies over, it's gonna get shot down immediately. Yeah.
That's been interesting to see. Those lobbing rocket attacks from behind the front lines. Like, it's just such an old... I mean, that's like, it makes me feel like World War I almost. Like, come up to no man's land, launch some things, and then get out of there. They weren't doing that in World War I, but it feels like that. Like, the lines are so secure. Like, it's a force field. Do not get any closer.
Yeah, that's how it is. And, I mean, Ka-52, the newest Russian alligator, right? They have only, like, 96 of them ever produced. I think 96 and 97. And we have detailed photos of like 30 of them destroyed. And they had the best top-notch Russian helicopter. T-90, the best ever Russian tank made. I mean, T-14 doesn't exist. Armata doesn't. But T-90, right? They have sent them to Ukraine, and these tanks are taken out with 2 RPG shots. The best, most expensive Russian tank that is supposed to beat Abrams is taken out with 2 RPG shots, and everybody dies inside. It's not like Abrams. It's designed to preserve the life. T-90 goes boom, the turret goes to space, and everybody's gone. and that's the Russian Hammer, the best equipment they have. So
I do think that the thing that's back of mind right now for me is they have not sent all of their conscripts. The mobilized forces have not all been sent forward. There's still videos of those guys in training. It makes sense that there's still some in training. What that number is, who knows? And then the Russian equipment in storage. That's always been a guess. We've never really known for sure, other than that they do have things in storage. Now, are those ready to be pulled out? Are they all broken down? Are they missing parts? There's a whole rabbit hole there. But those are two variables in the back of my mind over the next few months that you could speculate kind of in any direction.
Well, yeah, we don't have clear numbers, but we can see how they behave, and then we can answer from that, because they started the invasion with T-90s, T-80s, and T-72s. Most of their tank fleet, tank armada, and they sent those in. What is the reason? Why do they bring out T-60s? What's the reason?
At this point, it's just numbers, right? Yeah.
I mean, because they don't have T-72s anymore. That's like, you wouldn't bring out T-60, which is an obsolete tank, if you have better tanks. You wouldn't do that. But they brought them out like 4 months ago already. I guess they're even running out of T-60s now. We're seeing T-55s in the next month, I guess.
I'll bet there's some.
T-34s.
I'll bet there's some. I guarantee there's some. Russia's big. They got a lot of storage facilities.
Oh yeah, they have a lot. So, but that tells, like, for me at least, I read out of that they're running out of tanks. And people say Russia has 20,000 T-72s. Yes, they do. Rusting on some fields, doesn't work, without engines, without... A Russian tank it doesn't have a turret, it's a tank. It doesn't have engine, it's a tank, They don't keep stock how many of them have engines, how many of them have turrets that move, how many of them have barrels on top of them. It's just a tank, a number, put it down. So this 20,000, it's more like 5.
That is a massive number to maintain.
They don't maintain.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like that. That's a lot. It's a lot of reserve, especially for a country that hasn't used tanks in a major war in 80 years.
Yeah.
The amount of money that would go into maintaining 20,000, even 10,000 tanks it's a lot.
Yeah. And now we see that they don't, because I listen to a lot of these Russian calls in the Ukrainian front lines, and they sound very honest, and they talk to their wives. They're like, yeah, we're a little bit screwed because, we got 10 new tanks, but 8 of them didn't have moving turrets, so we can use 2 of them. And this is like a very honest conversation. They're like, idiom. So, it's truth. Yeah, they have tanks, but they don't work.
We had, I was I was a commander of a HIMARS battery for a little while in Texas.
Oh, man.
And
the legend.
Look, I didn't want to do it because I liked the light fight. I was in the 101st Airborne, so it was like the light guys. I liked that. HIMARS, we weren't using them at all. Nobody's using HIMARS. That's for conventional war. So I didn't really want to be a part of a HIMARS or a rocket unit. And sure enough, now they're really popular. But
everybody wants them.
They're good dudes. I liked the people in that unit. But we would only fire them. It was a National Guard unit, so we'd go down there once a month, which means these HIMARS would sit in a parking lot for 3, 4, 5 weeks sometimes without being touched.
In a dry parking lot? Mm-hmm. That's a good...
That's when they would break. Is you would think like, oh, you're not using the equipment, so it's good to go. No. This, and you know this, military equipment needs touches. It needs constantly doing stuff with it. So we would only use these HIMARS once or twice a year, and they would constantly break down when they weren't being used. So the idea of Russian tanks not being touched for 10 years, 20 years, it could take 2 years to get them operational.
That's how it is actually in Russia. Yeah. But I mean, I didn't know you were a HIMARS crew. I mean, this is going into the title, right?
Oh yeah, man.
This is hot topic.
Battery commander, HIMARS, Punisher.
What's it like to be a HIMARS battery commander, right? What's it like to be a HIMARS battery commander? Personal stories.
We had it was a good group. That's an interesting job as an officer because that HIMARS crew, those 3 guys in the truck, they do it all. We would send them fire missions, but when you're a cannon battery, 8, 12 howitzers, you're central, you're right on top of each other to kind of mass fires. But with HIMARS, like you're seeing in Ukraine, you just send that truck. Go.
Yeah.
And then they get a
They
call
shoot and they
over the
go.
radio. Yep. So as a battery commander, you end up doing a lot more with maintenance and planning and training when it comes to the actual execution of the battlefield. It's a really cool system because of that. Just go drive 100 miles that way, fire. We'll send you a target when you get there.
Like you fire and then you leave, right?
Yeah, right away. You can.
So you cannot be destroyed, kinda.
I think that's the trouble Russia's having with these. You can plug in the coordinates while the HIMARS is driving. So you know what the target's going to be. You can find a site, park, and in under a minute, essentially have the rocket ready, fired, and then as soon as it leaves the tube, you can go.
It's impossible to destroy them with what Russia has, because they don't have anything equivalent to HIMARS.
They would have to have something overhead, watching the area when a HIMARS is launched, because you've seen that smoke trail behind it. You can see that from a few miles away. So if they had an aircraft in the air to spot that, you realistically could zero in and follow it. But I guess they haven't been able to do that. That's not rocket science.
Russian command link is somebody's up with a drone. They have to call the dispatch who relays it to the top leadership, and they have to relay it down like 10 radio men down, and it's half an hour later you get some battery fire.
It's 20 miles
It's
away.
a very slow. Yeah. And for the fact that HIMARS has been in Ukraine for like 4 months, I think, and not a single one is lost, it means Russia cannot do anything with
I
them.
can't get my head around that. The HIMARS is not a game-changing, brand new secret technology.
But it is.
But it's not.
I mean,
But it's not. That's the thing. It's not supposed to be. They're not supposed.
They're not supposed to be.
20 to 30 HIMARS are not supposed to defeat the Russian military.
But they are.
It's crazy.
They're doing that. It's insane.
Like, it's a rocket.
Yeah.
It's a rocket. It's a guided rocket. That's all it is. It's not a missile that maneuvers through the air. It has to be laid on target, and it has fins that adjusts a little bit to hit a GPS coordinate. So it's really not hitting anything moving. It's not hitting anything at close range. It can be shot down. Once it's in the air, it's just a rocket. The idea that is causing so much devastation has been crazy.
That shows how incapable Russia is to deal with NATO's just HIMARS. It's nothing special. NATO's just HIMARS. Like it's not like U.S. is sending one of their most high-tech laser weapons, which they probably have by now. You know, it's HIMARS from 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's a 20-year-old weapon that Russia no doubt has been studying and watching and and we used it in Iraq and Afghanistan and Syria.
And Russia has known about this weapon for 20 years probably. And for the fact that they still cannot fight it means they are not capable of producing an anti-weapon to it. 20 years they have had this time. They have had the money, but they've not been able to do it. So it's fake that they're this powerful military.
When I was a battery commander, the big talk was North Korea. It's when things were ramping up with North Korea. One of the times, I think it was 2017. And we started to do some initial look at what operations in North Korea would look like, just at a battery level, at a battalion level. And my nervousness was the minute you fire one of those rockets, you're going to get killed. Because our peers...
Counterfire?
Yep, our peers, they have aircraft overhead, they have drones, they have missiles, some of them have supersonic missiles or hypersonic missiles. The minute you put a round down range from one of these long-range systems, they're taking that out. So it was a lot of our thinking was like, how do you disperse these HIMARS over such a broad area to where they have to choose where we're going to take out one or we're only going to take out this one, but essentially thinking you're going to be losing a crew or a truck just about every time you fire. Now that's worst case, but it's not unrealistic. So the idea that Ukraine has put out hundreds of these rounds at this point without losing a truck, like, what?
Russia cannot hit back, and I think North Korean military is decades behind Russian military, and Russia cannot do anything with them. So North Korea, it would be a bloodbath. I think U.S.A. and North Korean war would be like the first in Gulf War, where Iraq was taken out like perfectly. I don't know if I can comment on these wars, but as much as I've watched videos about them, it was a perfect execution. The Air Force worked, the ground force worked, everything was calculated, minimal losses, maximum outcome, shock and awe.
Yeah.
I think it would be the same with North Korea. And for the fact that you say like you had this fear means that American military gives so much credit to their enemies. Like they They cannot destroy these HIMARS trucks.
I know. I'm torn on that a little bit because, we were talking about how off the analysis of Russia was. I'd rather it be that way than the other. But
it's always better to. Yeah.
But there's a cost to it, right? We spent a lot of money, put a lot of resources into getting to where we are because we thought Russia was stronger than they are. And that money could have been spent elsewhere. There's other things that could have been done for that. So,
okay,
impossible.
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, but I don't know how you change that.
I mean, I would say the only military capable. Okay, maybe I'm very biased towards America, but I think even China. I think China is very similar to Russia because they are a top-down heavy system. They're a communist system, and knowing what communism is inside out, it's rotten. The principle behind it is rotten. You cannot build anything strong with communist system. Nothing. Time has proven it. Vietnam, North Korea, the system doesn't work. And Chinese military, I think they have put out a lot of propaganda. People believe they're very strong, and definitely they are strong. I think they're second strongest army in the world, probably. But I don't think they're anywhere close to U.S.A. Anywhere. That's my belief, at least.
I think you're probably right. There was a good article I read recently that said essentially that, but they said the gap is shortening and China is increasing faster than the United States.
Well, yeah, but still, everything they make is a copy of a copy. It's USA is the OG. They make this stuff, and then China. Oh, that's good. Let's copy it. But the copy is never as good. The remix is never as good as the original song, I think. So. But I know people have very different opinions on this, and I'm very biased towards America and towards Ukraine. I'm honest about that. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Hopefully, we don't have to find out where U.S. stacks up against China anytime soon.
Yeah. I mean, now that U.S. pulled out of Afghanistan, they're always fighting a war somewhere, but like a proxy war, or whatever. But they don't really have boots on the ground with a huge conflict right now, anywhere.
No. There are still troops in places like Iraq and Syria, to your point, but nothing like, if an American soldier were killed today, it'd be big news because we're just not doing much in conflict zones right now. For the first time in 2 decades.
Enjoy the peace, and by peace I mean 100 proxy wars, but it's still peace.
Drone strikes everywhere.
Yeah. People have called me out on my biased stance, but I'm Estonian. My country survives because USA backs us. If they wouldn't, Germany didn't care up until now. EU didn't care. NATO cared. Because of NATO, we exist. Because of NATO, politics exists. So I'm naturally all for hooray. I have a USA flag on my room, and I'm like, hell yeah.
Look, we're all biased. It doesn't. You can't just. We all are to some degree. You can't help it. I'm biased towards the United States because I live here. The whole first half of this conversation, I was talking about the United States experience in past conflicts, and because that's what I'm around. That's what I see. That's what I know best.
Yeah. And some people a lot of people actually try to talk about this conflict and state that they're not biased. And I don't really see the point in that, honestly, because I don't understand what's so bad about picking a side in this conflict. I mean, it's do or die for the Ukrainians. It's okay if you pick the Russian side, but being neutral, I think, is doing more harm than than picking a side.
The stance I've taken on that is, I think the information will speak for itself. Like if you can not have blatant propaganda and just see what's happening, it's not hard to figure out what is good, what is bad. But if people think that you're very pro-Ukraine or you're very pro-Russia, I think it dilutes the information and potentially makes people view it through a lens. But I don't know if that's true or not.
Oh, good point.
I definitely
that's a really good point.
I definitely look at pro-Russia accounts with all right, they might be telling the truth. I'm sure plenty of times they are saying truthful things, right? But it's I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's tricky, man.
I know what you mean.
Information war is no joke.
Yeah. And well, I'm part of it, and you are actually part of it. If you do this content in short form, long form, it doesn't. You're part of it. And yeah,
Crazy, but yeah, you're right.
but I think we can start wrapping up the podcast. Oh, hour and 5 minutes of nice conversation. Very good.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Everybody who's viewing Preston Stewart's channel is in the description below. Go and subscribe to him, watch his content, really cool content. Do you have something you want to add in the end?
I don't think so, man. I just really appreciate the conversation. You started it right out at the beginning saying one of the coolest things about this kind of medium and this content is meeting people and being able to engage with other folks and chat about this kind of stuff. So just a great example. If you hadn't been and I hadn't been making random content on YouTube, we wouldn't have met. And
yeah.
I love it. I think it's really cool. So thank you so much for the invitation.
Yeah. Thank you for coming. And if people like it, I would definitely want to do a second episode. Are you down to do that?
Always available, man. Happy to.
All right, my friends. Until the next podcast. Bye-bye.
See y'all.